Hi guys, today we're going to be examining the top 8 characters from My Hero Academia with multiple quirks. And if you disagree or agree with any of the characters I've selected or think I've missed anyone out, please let me know. And I'm going to be doing more My Hero videos in the future, pretty much like this, so please subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Minor spoiler warning for the manga. In 8th place on this list, we have the future #1 hero and central protagonist of the story, Izuku Midoriya, otherwise known by his hero name of Deku. Deku possesses the quirks known as One for All, Black Whip, and 5 currently unknown quirks, but he never developed a quirk as a child. Deku's first quirk was One for All, which was given to him by All Might, who decided that Deku was a worthy successor. One for All grants him the combined strength of all the previous 8 people who've had the power before him. Specifically, it's a stock power piling quirk, which enables a user to continually build on top of their own power. For example, imagine you went to the gym for 2 months, took a break for 3 years, came back to the gym and was benching the same weight. That's essentially what stockpiling is. You're always building on top of what you've already built. One for All also has a second quirk, which is the ability to be transferred. Hence, why unlike every other quirk we've seen in the show, it has been continually passed down through generation to generation, growing stronger each time. This transfer ability was a quirk in itself, and combined with the stock power piling ability to make One for All. Therefore, One for All itself is essentially 2 quirks combined. Deku's second quirk, or technically third quirk, is Black Whip, and it allows the user to produce black vines from their arms, the primary purpose of which seems to be capturing people or objects. If Deku chose to, he could use Black Whip to attack his enemies, capture them, or throw projectiles at them. It's a pretty versatile quirk and very strong in its own right. Black Whip and 5 additional unknown quirks lie dormant inside the core of One for All. They all belong to previous users of the power, but the manga implies that Deku was the first user of One for All who's been able to harness the powers of previous users. If we were talking purely about raw strength, then Deku's combined quirks would be in the top 3 of this list. But when you look at the bigger picture, he said himself that he's not yet strong enough to use Black Whip reliably, and we have literally no idea what the other 5 quirks are. So given that this is a list of characters with multiple quirks, I feel his additional quirks don't yet do enough to go higher. Though, when Deku has the power to harness Black Whip properly, and we get a good look at the other 5 quirks, I'm fairly confident that he will be right near the top of this list. At number 7 on the list, we have Neito Monama, and his quirk, which is known as Copy. Monama is another first-year student at UA, and his power allows him to temporarily copy the quirk of anyone he touches. Monama can copy multiple quirks at the same time and switch between them at will. This makes him incredibly dangerous. However, he can't use them simultaneously. The reason I've included him on this list of characters with multiple quirks is pretty simple. Monama's vast improvements to his power during only his first year have convinced me that by the time he leaves UA, his power will be in a different league. In his first year, he was able to increase the amount of quirks he could copy at a time from 3 to 5. That's an increase of 66%. Furthermore, he doubled the amount of time he can hold quirks from 5 minutes to 10 minutes. Given what we've seen recently in the manga, with the awakenings of characters like Shigaraki and Toga, I have no doubt that if Monoma continues on this current path, it wouldn't be crazy to say, for example, that he could retain 3 quirks permanently and be able to use them simultaneously. He's an incredibly determined individual, and I think the nature of his quirks gives itself to having multiple quirks. I'm pretty sure down the line, you will see him retaining quirks permanently. At 6th place on this list, we have Himiko Toga, a member of the League of Villains and basically an all-round psychopath. Her base quirk allows her to transform into other people, but in the manga it was recently revealed that the power has evolved into something more. With her transform quirk, Toga is able to physically transform into anyone, including their clothes and vocal cords, so long as she consumes their blood first. The duration of her transformation depends on the amount of blood she's consumed, with 1 cup of blood being equivalent to about a full day of being transformed. So, what is her second quirk? Well, as I explained, she has the ability to look like another person. But, spoiler alert, her quirk is now awakened, and she can now in fact replicate someone else's quirk as well. This was shown when she copied Ochako's zero gravity quirk and used it to deal with a group of antagonists by lifting them up into the air and subsequently hurtling them down to the ground, killing them. And because of this new copying ability, which is so different from the transformation, I have to say that in essence, Toga does have 2 distinctive and powerful quirks. At number 5 is Shoto Todoroki. Shoto is one of the most popular characters in the series, and his quirk is called Half Cold, Half Hot. It is the perfect fusion of his father's flame quirk, which is called Hell Flame, and his mother's ice quirk. With this ability, the right side of his body can produce incredible amounts of ice, which can be used in a variety of different ways. For example, he can create waves of ice, protective barriers, or even use the ice to surf on. He can use the power to freeze things on a large scale, or freeze things quite precisely, for example, someone's leg. When we were first introduced to his character, Shoto exclusively used the icy side of his body. However, things have changed a lot since then, and Shoto now utilizes the left side of his body, which has an arguably even deadlier power. On his left side, Shoto can release devastating flames, which, as we've seen recently in the manga, can be nearly enough to melt steel. Todoroki is very lucky in the sense that both his quirks complement each other incredibly well. If his body starts to heat up, he can use the ice side to cool him down, and vice versa. This way, he counteracts the dangerous effects in a way his father never could. I think it's fairly obvious why I consider this to be two quirks. Both stand as quirks in their own right and are very powerful. The fact that Shoto has both is a very lucky and rare occurrence. In fourth place is a character that we've only seen in the manga so far, so if you want to skip to third place right now, you can just click the timestamp in the description, if you want to avoid spoilers. So, at fourth place is a character known as the High-End Nomu. If you're watching this video, then you probably already know this, but Nomus are former human beings who've been genetically modified into basically disgusting monsters that can hold multiple quirks. The High-End Nomu, though, was special in that it demonstrates intelligence previously unseen by any Nomu, and it has at least 5 overpowered quirks that were able to severely wound and nearly defeat the #1 hero, Endeavor. Firstly, it has super regeneration, which, as we saw, enables it to regenerate from even the tiniest part. So long as even a part of the head remains intact, High-End's entire body can be regenerated from that single part. Secondly, he has a storage quirk that allows it to store other lower level Nomus inside its own body. During its fight with Endeavor, we saw it release 9 Nomus out into the public. High-End also has mounted shoulder jets to allow him to fly, and muscle augmentation, which allow him to alter the muscle fibers in its own body to increase the power. High-End can also shapeshift its arms. An example of this occurred when it turned its arms into wings, and potentially maybe it could shapeshift other parts of its body. We only saw it shapeshift its arms, but we don't know what the potential of that quirk is. There are several characters in the world of My Hero Academia whose quirks are basically the ability of a particular creature in the wild, sort of like Spider-Man, how he can climb on walls. We've seen Froppy, Gang Orca, and Spotted Seal, to name a few. All of their quirks are just the personification of animal abilities. So, at third place on the list, we have Tamaki Amajiri, and his quirk, Manifest. Manifest allows him the potential to utilize all of these animal quirks at once. The Manifest quirk allows the user to transform their body to gain the characteristics of anything the user has eaten, so long as it remains active in their digestive system. For example, if he eats a clam, he can turn his hand into a dense clam shell. If he eats an octopus, he can shoot long tentacles out of his fingers. This quirk is basically every animal quirk you could want rolled into one. But in addition to that, as we've seen in the manga, he can consume non-food items and manifest that as well. The only example we've seen of this so far is crystals, taking out 3 professional villains in the process. This makes the possibilities of his quirk basically endless. Manifest is sort of like a parent quirk that allows the manifestation of several different child quirks. In practice, it is more than one quirk. Overall, there's a reason Tamaki is in the big 3 at UA, and there's a reason he's in the top 3 of this list as well. At number 2 on this list, we have Kai Chisaki, otherwise known by his villain name of Overhaul. In my opinion, Overhaul has 2 distinctive quirks, which I'm going to call Disassemble and Reassemble, though in the manga they are both referred to by the name of Overhaul, much like how Todoroki and Deku's quirks are referred to as one name, despite them inherently being 2 powers. With the Disassemble quirk, Chisaki can destroy anything he touches. We saw this for the first time when he obliterated Mr. Compress's arm into 1,000,000 pieces just by laying a single hand on it. This by itself is one of the most powerful quirks in the world of MHA, but it is entirely separate from his ability to reassemble things. When you disassemble something, you take it apart. Just because you can do this doesn't automatically mean that you have the ability to fix it as well. Luckily for Chisaki, he also has the ability to reassemble, which, like Todoroki, is the opposite of his first quirk, but complements it in a brilliant way. By combining these 2 quirks, Chisaki can restore destroyed things back to their original state. For example, when used on a person, Overhaul can heal any injuries or ailments that they have by reconstructing them to a biologically perfect state. He can cure his own wounds literally during a battle if he wants. The guy is an absolute monster. Furthermore, the combination of these quirks allows him to combine different objects into a single entity, including biological things. He can literally fuse himself with others or fuse others together with a single touch. This quirk has limitless potential, and if he can get a hand on someone, they're basically dead. I believe he is one of the few people who can actually go toe-to-toe with the #1 guy on this list. But yeah, if you disagree with my logic, let me know, but in my opinion, this is distinctly 2 quirks. Disassembling things and reassembling things are literally the opposite of each other, so the fact he can do both is 2 quirks. With that said, the #1 villain on this list of characters with multiple quirks is obviously All For One, who possesses a quirk of the same name. If we're talking about potential, All For One is probably the best quirk in the history of MHA. The user is able to steal other people's quirks by touching them and either use them for himself or transfer them to someone else. That by itself is literally 3 quirks. Think about it. You firstly have the ability to rob someone of their quirk. Then you have the additional ability of actually being able to use that quirk for yourself. And then you have the ability to give it to anyone else you choose. So right from the offset, this guy is overpowered. That's 3 quirks straight off the bat. We've seen in the manga that All For One was able to make many allies due to the nature of this power. In a flashback, we saw him removing quirks from people who didn't want them and giving those quirks to people who were quirkless. This allowed him to essentially build an army, a villainous empire which has been around for generations. The additional quirks that we have seen him demonstrate, which are obviously therefore stolen quirks, include longevity, warping, forced quirk activation, infrared rays, and search. Now, breaking this down, longevity is a quirk that has allowed All For One to exist for decades upon decades. If I had to guess, I would say that he is at least 120 years old, but despite that, he has a body of a young man. But the less said about his face, the better. The warping ability allows him to warp people to and from his location, but it can only be used on people with whom he has a relationship. Forced quirk activation is a favorite quirk of All For One's. He can turn his fingers into black jagged spikes that can stab into someone and forcefully activate their quirk against their will. But a lot of the time, he just uses it as a weapon. Additionally, because All For One is blind, he uses infrared rays to see. Obviously, this level of power is ridiculous, as he can combine all the different quirks and use them simultaneously to basically use powers that would never occur naturally. We saw this during his fight with All Might, where his arm turned into some sort of disgusting monstrosity that would never be seen in the world of MHA without a power like this. So the fact that he can take quirks, combine those quirks, give them away at will, it basically makes him the ultimate bad guy and pretty much unstoppable, unless your name is All Might. But yeah, guys, that was the list of the top 8 characters in My Hero Academia who have multiple quirks. This is the end of the video, and I encourage you, if you agree or disagree with any of my selections, please let me know in the comment section below. Like I said, this is a new channel, so every single comment, like, subscription, it means a lot. Please like the video if you had a good time with it, and subscribe because I'm going to be doing more videos like this. I started from literally 0 subscribers. At the time of recording this, I have about 12, so I'd appreciate if you could subscribe and support the channel. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. And if you're interested, I've done 2 previous chapter reviews of My Hero Academia, so you can check those out on my channel as well.